Okay, so today we're going to really dig into something pretty fascinating. The story of how Nokia went from the absolute top of the mobile phone world to, well, basically losing it all in just a few short years.
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't even remember just how completely Nokia ruled the mobile phone market for so long.
Right, you've shared some great research on this, focusing on how businesses can stay disciplined and, really sustainable, and also the huge role that leadership plays when entire markets are changing like crazy.
Absolutely, and that's what we're going to do today, kind of dissect the Nokia story and pull out some of those key lessons that, well, anybody can apply to understanding their own business and the challenges they're facing.
Exactly, because this is an ancient history. This is something that happened incredibly fast.
It really is a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Nokia went from being the global leader to a shadow of its former self in what felt like the blink of an eye. So the question is, how did that happen and what can we learn from it?
Yeah, so to start, let's take a quick trip down memory lane. Seriously, I think a lot of people, especially, younger folks, have no idea just how dominant Nokia was back in the day.
Right. It's easy to forget now.
Oh yeah, they weren't just a big company. They were basically the only name in mobile phones for a huge part of the world.
Exactly. They had massive market share. We're talking global reach and a brand that was synonymous with mobile communication.
Like when you said mobile phone, people thought Nokia.
Exactly. And then, of course, the landscape changed radically and suddenly with the arrival of the iPhone in 2007.
And then right on its heels, Android in 2008.
Right. Those two really shook things up.
Oh, yeah. And our sources make it really clear that this wasn't just a case of new and better hardware hitting the market. This was a fundamental shift in what people expected a mobile phone to be able to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The iPhone and Android, they ushered in a whole new era, the era of smartphones. And that was a huge change from the way Nokia was thinking about the mobile phone market.
Yeah, it wasn't just about making calls and texting anymore. It was about apps and the whole software experience. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from all this is that Nokia, well, they kind of missed that boat.
Yeah.
They underestimated just how fast and how profoundly things were changing.
They did. And a big part of that was their continued reliance on their own operating system, Symbian.
Right, Symbian.
Which, to be fair, was a very capable OS in its time.
Oh, yeah. It powered a lot of those classic Nokia phones.
It did. But compared to iOS and Android, it had a much more complex architecture, and that made it really difficult for developers to quickly create the kind of, innovative user-friendly apps that people were suddenly clamoring for on these new smartphones.
That's so interesting because it wasn't just about the technology itself, it was about the ecosystem that grew up around the technology.
Precisely. And this difference in those developer ecosystems became a major competitive disadvantage for Nokia.
And so it wasn't just about, one phone being better than another phone. It was about a whole new way of interacting with technology.
Absolutely. It was a whole new paradigm. And Nokia, well, they kind of got stuck in the old one.
So we've talked a lot about the technology side of things, but the research you've pulled together points to other factors as well, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The technology was huge, but it wasn't the only reason for Nokia's decline leadership decisions. And the internal dynamics at Nokia played a big role too.
So it wasn't just a tech problem, it was also an organizational and strategic problem.
Exactly. Some sources point to a very hierarchical structure within Nokia that may have stifled innovation and made it really hard for new ideas to gain traction and gain it quickly, in a fast-changing market like that.
So it's like the company wasn't set up to adapt and react quickly enough.
Right. And there may have also been a reluctance at the highest levels to really disrupt their own existing business, even when the writing was on the wall.
Because they were so successful.
Exactly. It's easy to understand why they might have hesitated to walk away from a model that had worked so well for them for so long.
But it really highlights that immense responsibility that falls on the shoulders of a CEO.
Doesn't it? Because at the end of the day, the leader is ultimately accountable for the direction of the company, for its success or failure, and for the livelihoods of all their employees.
And that really comes through in one of the sources you sent. A misstep at that level can have huge consequences for everyone involved.
Absolutely, the stakes are incredibly high.
So if we're going to boil all this down to one major takeaway, what would it be?
I think it's the importance of being adaptable. Nokia's story is a really powerful illustration of just how quickly market dominance can vanish if a company isn't agile and can't accurately read and respond to big market shifts.
And it emphasizes how crucial it is to not just stay ahead of technological advancements, but also to have leadership that's visionary and willing to embrace change, even when it means shaking things up.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, because sometimes you have to disrupt yourself before someone else disrupts you.
And that brings up a really interesting question, something for everyone listening to think about. Given how fast technology and markets are constantly changing,
Yeah.
are there any Symbian moments happening right now?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like what established technologies or business models might be vulnerable to disruption? And what lessons can we learn from Nokia to avoid a similar fate?
Because it could be happening in any industry.
Absolutely. It's a crucial question to consider as we all navigate these ever-changing waters.
Absolutely. Food for thought, for sure. Thanks for diving into this with me.
You got it.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for watching this episode of Trendsetters and Politicos. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed our trending and political analysis, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more insightful conversations and expert opinions. Follow us on social media to stay updated on the latest trends and political news. Your likes, shares, and reviews are greatly appreciated as they help us grow and bring you more quality content. Don't miss out on our next episode, where we'll dive into hot topic. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep it locked to Trendsetters and Politicos.